working. All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy new week. I hope you guys are having a great start to this week. It is the last week before school holidays, so I'm looking forward to a little break. But most importantly today, right next to me, we have my gorgeous author, Bronwyn Wilson, Dr. Bronwyn Wilson from Perth. She's gotten up nice and early today to give us some information around her topic of expertise. And she's actually not just a one-time published author, she's almost getting through her second book, and there's a third book in the works. So as the conversation today says, today we're discussing how we can advance awareness and understanding of neurodiverse relationships and bridge that gap. So thank you so much, Bron, for joining me and sharing all this wisdom that you've accumulated over years and years of study and research and all that sort of stuff.
Well, thank you, Nat. It's lovely to do this.
Awesome. So let me give you guys the official introduction of who Bron is, and then we'll get stuck into some of the content. And by all means, please feel free to write comments or interact with us, because I'll follow it on my phone here to make sure that everybody, anything is handled. And also we welcome comments or questions after the interview. If you've watched this on a different platform or wherever you're listening to this as well, maybe as a podcast. All right. So Dr. Bronwyn Wilson is a teacher, researcher, and author who's passionate about diversity and inclusion. She currently lives in a small beachside town in Western Australia after having moved from Queensland for her husband's work. From working as a teacher to embarking on research, her passion for teaching students in the classroom has transformed into a passion for helping adults in neurodiverse relationships within a global classroom. Her aspiration is to contribute to building amity between autistic and neurotypical people by improving knowledge and understanding of their interaction differences and the resulting complexities they face when relating with each other. As a wife, mother, daughter, and sibling of people on the autism spectrum, her life experiences have underpinned the way that she approaches the research process. Rather than purely conforming to conventional interview methods, chatting and talking over many hours with the participants created a relaxed dialogue that delivered rare insights into their lives. Mm-hmm. These insights are the subject of her book or books, right? Amazing, Bron. So, let's kind of unpack for those that are listening a little bit about, neurodiverse relationships, and also like, how long had you been thinking about writing your book, and what was finally the catalyst? I need to get on with this and get this out into the world.
Well, I started with doing research because I was in the classroom and noticing things that was making me sort of look into it and going, what's going on here, and connecting up with what was going on in my own life, and sort of seeing that there was a similarity, but there was nothing in research about it. I couldn't read any articles about it. It talked about children, but not about adults. And so I decided to leave teaching and go into research. And that's where I started to get all the knowing about this sort of thing. But I wanted to do more than I didn't want to be just an academic and have everything sort of just sitting on a library shelf or something like that.
Yes.
I did this to be going out into the world, to give the message to everyone, because it's just such an important message. And so I needed an avenue to be able to do that, because writing research articles and all those sorts of things, it's in a certain it's not where people can usually access so easily. So writing a book seemed to be the best idea to get the message out.
To simplify it, right? Because, I know I did a degree in psychology and psychophysiology, and every time I read those textbooks or research papers or did research myself or submitted my assignments and all that, it was just like language that is not everyday
Yes.
language, right? So you
Mm.
wanted to like simplify it and make it more available to people, that would make it more practical. Is that right?
Yes, and to make it so more accessible so that people
Yes.
can get the information as well as understand what it is that's being said to them, because academic speaking and academic language is, like you said, it's a world of its own.
Yeah, and what only 3 to 5% of people really can understand that language, right?
Yes. And
Yeah, I love
even when you're in that, it's sometimes the way that it's written, it's not very user friendly.
you have to think on it. I remember having to decipher in my brain what certain things meant. Hey, by the way, we didn't show them your book. Let's show them your book. So this is the first book, guys. I'll show you the second book later, but Have They Gone Nuts? The Survival Guide to Social Interaction in Neurodiverse, Autistic, Neurotypical Relationships. So that is, and she's got these little characters, the nuts, that go through, bringing a more lighthearted approach to to the whole topic. So do you want to describe some of our listeners, what is a neurodiverse relationship or person that has that?
Well, there's different types of neurodiverse relationships, but it usually means someone in that relationship is on the autism spectrum.
Got it.
And that mean two people with autism, or it can mean one person with autism and another person who is not considered autistic. And I have specifically focused on that type of relationship where one person is and one person isn't, because that's where there's kind of a culture clash going on in the relationship. Two different types of people trying to make a life together and a family together, and it causes all sorts of difficulties because they're speaking their own language. And it's literally like when you if somebody is, say, from Russia and somebody is from England or something.
Yeah.
And they're speaking different languages and they can't understand each other. And it's a similar type of thing when you've got a person on the autism spectrum and a person who is not on the autism spectrum. There's that language barrier and different way of thinking, because it's a different brain functioning. And so it makes it really tricky to then be able to create a relationship and create, yes. So then all sorts of problems can develop just because of this difference. And that's what I noticed in the classroom when I was teaching and doing a checklist on a child and starting to recognise that these things that I was seeing in the classroom was also part of my life.
Yeah.
So that's what really prompted me to go on and look at this in a deeper level and see that it's not just in the classroom. This is playing out in everybody's lives. And that's what makes it important to get this message out, because so many people are struggling and don't know why. And so this is why
Is it true that, sorry to interrupt you, is it true that a lot of people now later on in life are being diagnosed? Like, that's what I've heard lately. Right.
Because research is really focusing on children all the time, and a lot of professionals went through their education at a time when this wasn't even considered. So they don't really understand that it's a lifelong situation. Nobody grows out of their autism spectrum condition. It travels with the person as they get older, and they might adapt in certain ways and be able to learn how to mask the situations that they're going through. But still, they are on the autism spectrum, and that's how they are.
Yeah.
So they often do not understand that that's why they're struggling.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of problems and issues that come into people's lives because there's this difference and a different communication style and relationships of communication.
Yeah. Diane is saying on our Facebook Live, on my journey of learning about my son's autism diagnosis, it became apparent to me that his dad is also on the autism spectrum. Living his life without understanding of this has had a huge negative impact for him and me. And actually lately I've had a few authors who've said that they were diagnosed late in life and all that. So aside from communication challenges, what are some other unique challenges of not neurodiverse relationships?
Well, it's basically like you're got two different styles of thinking. I sort of liken it to how there's men and women, and we're very different in our ways of going about life.
Yeah.
We're human beings, and we've got our own sort of way that's fine, that's okay, but men don't get women and women don't get men. And I look at it in the same sort of way that there's people on the autism spectrum and they're their way, and people who are not on the autism spectrum called neurotypical, and they are that way. And so there's this difference going on that they can't understand each other. So the communication difficulties create basically an impossible situation to be able to get to know that person, to understand who is it that I am in a relationship with. And there's a barrier then between getting to know somebody and being able to be close to that person in that relationship, because the communication is the way to do that. And if you can't communicate, how can you do that?
Yeah.
So
well, you talk about the dynamic system of communication. What is it? I'm curious.
Well, what I discovered in my research was that what happens is the person on the spectrum is struggling with this communication, and so starts to avoid everything. But the person that's neurotypical, they want to be able to connect and interact. So they start prompting the person that's on the spectrum to, talk to them in a deeper way. But the problem is, because that stresses out the person on the spectrum to try and talk about emotions and feelings and personal interaction sorts of things, that's fluid, it's not got any structure to it, so it can get quite difficult. And so there's this avoidance that happens, and so then the person that's not on the spectrum starts prompting, pushing, trying to get the conversation going, and it starts getting into a cycle of prompting and avoiding, to the point that it creates this certain dynamic in the relationship. And so it then makes a different type of relationship to what is how you expect a relationship to be, with all these avoidance issues and communication issues, with this prompting and avoidance going on, that creates a cycle.
Give us some strategies. How do people navigate it? Do you have some tips?
Well, the best thing, the only thing that I think that really people can do about it is we need more knowledge, more understanding about what it is that's going on in neurodiverse relationships, what it is to be on the autism spectrum, what it is to be not on the autism spectrum. and both people need to understand the other to start to get to learn, okay, what is the parameters of what I'm like as a person that's on the spectrum, and I need to understand that a person that's not on the autism spectrum are going to be different, and I need to know what that difference is, and then vice versa, so that you're getting the understanding of each other. And that can only happen through gaining knowledge and awareness through reading and getting the knowledge of what that actually means. And that's what I put in my book.
That's why you've written the book, so they're going to buy your books.
So I've talked all about in my book, well, it's all my participants are talking, really. It's their words.
Yes, 400 participants, guys, 400.
Yes, internationally.
Wow.
So I've talked to people all around the world, most countries.
Yeah.
Because I started doing research from a different position to what most do, in that I started from being in this type of relationship myself in my family, extended family. I've got lots of people on the spectrum in my life. And so because I started that way, I didn't necessarily do things in a very traditional way.
Yes.
So I was talking and chatting lots to people, and that's how I got all the gems that was able to be put in this book. So it's their words telling everybody what they go through, what we go through, and what happens, to give people that understanding and knowledge of, you know, when this happens, then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and to see the dynamic between the two. And it's written from the perspective of both. What I found in research is most people usually pick a side. They'll either research the people on the autism spectrum, or they'll research the people who are not on the autism spectrum and what it means.
Yes.
But my research is both. So it's from both sides. It's trying to be as equal as I possibly can to show that there is two sides to this, because all relationships are two-sided.
Yes.
And so it's not focusing on one side or the other.
That's right.
But showing that there is this dynamic that happens, and in order to do something about that dynamic, you need to first understand what it is.
Yes.
What you're actually going through, what's happening. The when I do this, this happens, and then I do this, and the toing and froing, that needs to be understood so that you can see the patterns that are starting to develop, and then know what to actually do to change that dynamic. So first and foremost, we need to get the information out there as to, you know, what's actually happening, because there's hardly anything for adults.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking of the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. You've literally written a book. You know, people are on the spectrum or off the. I don't know how we can reframe that, but like as you say, you're bringing out this information of something that hasn't been talked about a lot. You know, so you're simplifying it and making it available to you know, the world.
Yes, everybody.
In a simplified format from the mouths of people who live with someone or are on the spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah. So book one, so take us through what each of the books is about. So book one, which we showed just earlier, guys, this one. What's that? The focus of this one is what?
This one is basically the survival guide, it's called. So it's social interaction. So it's talking about the actual dynamic that happens in the relationship.
Yeah.
Getting people to understand this relationship and what happens. And it's all focused towards the people in the relationship.
Yep. And then I'm just going to share book 2. That's the cover for book 2, guys. And this one?
This one is, the first one is sort of inside the relationship. This one is outside of the relationship. So it's focused on families and friends and clinicians and all the people that you go to reach out for help and support. You know, even just talking in your family, extended family members, and trying to talk about what's going on in your life. And there's a lot of misunderstandings about it. Lots of people say, oh, you know, that's how men are, or that's just how things are. They dismiss it.
Yes.
Because there just isn't the understanding of the actual dynamic that happens that's specific to this type of relationship. And because clinicians went through their education at a time when that was not understood, you go and seek help from somebody, you know, a counsellor, a psychologist, and they often create a bigger problem for the people in the relationship because they don't know. So the second book is sort of focused on that side of things, but you also need to have the first book to understand.
They connect. Yeah. I'll read a couple of comments. There has been Diane, there has been a lot of focus on helping people on the spectrum to understand the neurotypical world. I love that now that focus is shifting. And then Hrisanthi says, Bronwyn, will this become an audio book? My daughter recently was diagnosed with ASD and prefers audio than reading. Well, obviously down the track, right, Bron? Get them out first as normal books.
Yes, well, I would like to do everything that I possibly can.
Yeah.
So podcasts, you know, talking on videos, you know, everything to get the message out, because I think it is just such an important thing. I feel like in a way I'm very privileged in that I just hit on this thing that seems to be the key element of what's going on in the communication, just because I was having conversations with people. And
that's wonderful. And I can see you having a lot more conversations on your podcast with more, you know, and like really amping that 400 to thousands of people, that, you know, to understand that. So, you know, how did you find the process, you know, going through this? Because I believe when we met, you were kind of almost considering that traditional publishing route. And I remember we spoke about how many words you had written. And I said, hang on a second, you've got like 3 books there. You know, don't release a overwhelmingly huge book, you know, split it down. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I think that's what the problem was that I tried to go through the traditional publishing houses because that's all I knew. I didn't know anything else or any other way. But because I had chatted for all these hours with all my participants, I did have such a huge amount of information, and I didn't want to lose any of it because it was all very important, relevant stuff. So I'd packed it into this one book, not realizing that it was way too big and nobody would read it. So not in the way that I'd written it, because it was too academic. So when I found you, that was just amazing to me, because you and your team helped me to unpack it in a way that made it so that it is now a marketable book, something that people will want and read and understand, whereas before it just it was too big, too academic, too
well, we're super proud of you, Bron, because we try to kick the academic out of you guys to make you relatable to the general public, right? So that people can make those changes and have the practical information. And I love the fact that you attended your first program and retreat got the first book out, came along just recently to the second retreat. So you've gone through the process properly each time, and I'm sure we're going to be doing that for the third one. Well, you know, how does that help you? I mean, sometimes people publish one and go through the program properly once, and they go, oh, I'm just going to do the publishing. How does that help? What do you think is the difference between just doing publishing on subsequent books rather than going through it properly?
Well, I don't think I would have even come up with a lot of the ideas that how the book's set out without that process.
Yeah.
It's going through the process and learning over those 3 days.
Yeah.
Just like I wouldn't have come up with the idea of the nuts.
Yeah. Was it Stuart? Was that Stuart? Yeah.
But it's the process of what you go through and what you learn that really creates a product at the end that's really I can feel proud of.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not, it feels more than just a book.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it's my baby.
It totally is. Yeah. And you're having triplets. I love it. And the nuts are like, they make a really serious topic lighthearted, and they're little characters throughout the book, right? And you can have a bit of fun with them. And, you know, you could almost take, when you're doing speaking gigs, Bron, I suggest you take a bag of nuts on stage.
Yes.
Seriously. I mean, you can do so many fun things with them. I think that's what actually how people remember and learn. And you'll be launching soon. You'll be coming up to Queensland, aren't you? You're doing the 15th of October launch, which I know
speaker event, author event day.
Yeah. There's going to be like 9 of you guys there. I might share the details, guys, just below the video. So if there's no cost to attend and go meet Bron in real life if you're in Queensland. And then I'm sure you're going to be doing something in Perth, yeah?
Yes, a little bit later.
Yeah, a little bit later. So stay tuned for that one as well. Amazing. So let's tell people where they can get the book. I've got the website open, guys. Here it is. That's Bron here. It's Bron Wilson, very simple.com. So not AU, so BRON and then Wilson.com. And there's the first book there. You can buy it. And also you can find the books online on Amazon, on all your good online reseller. And just last week, this book reached its #1 Amazon bestseller status. So there are all the different things you can actually read up about. You have a lot of information there, Bron. So, you know, and of course, if you guys order it directly from Bron, I'm sure she'll sign it personally for you and mail it out and things like that. So I love it. So I can't wait to see where this is in 6 to 12 months, you know, with your message and your passion. And so many people need to be made aware of these books, that they exist, and get their hands on them so that they can understand. And certainly, even for if you're not in a neurodiverse relationship in your personal life, you could be in your professional, right? You could be having clients or colleagues, or we're surrounded by neurodiverse people and neurotypical people, like you say. So it's good to know how to navigate and to see, I guess, situations from other people's, how it is in other people's shoes, right?
Well, they're finding out now that autism is really very common, and I really believe that it's something that is throughout history, and maybe one day we might call it something different to autism, because I think it's just part of the human
makeup.
But the thing is, though, that we need to understand how to interact with people on the spectrum, and people on the spectrum need to understand how to interact with us. So we need, it's everybody. It's really for everybody. It's not just for a neurodiverse relationship to understand this, because, like you said, you can be working with someone on the spectrum. You can be your doctor or your person that you go to see for a problem or something could be on the spectrum, or you could be on the spectrum and trying to work through things.
That's
and
right.
You don't know that you're on the spectrum because lots of adults don't know. They've gone through their whole life struggling.
Because the focus has been on the children.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we all need to get more and more understanding, and it's like how nobody used to talk about mental health issues.
Yeah.
And so then people were struggling and nobody knew what to do or how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So now I'd like to get that conversation going in regard to the autism spectrum, and so that it becomes more normalized and we can get to understand that there are differences in how people are, and we need to understand what those differences are in order to be able to live and work and love all these
I love that.
people.
Yeah, amazing, Bron. Well, you certainly have started the journey and you've put yourself out there, which is most people will not do it because they're scared of what will happen, and you're doing it. So I can't wait, we'll reconvene for another interview, and book 2 is fully out for sure, and book 3, and we'll keep having this conversation. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. Let's remember, we're all different, and we can work out with the power of communication how to relate to one another, especially. And so if you've got someone in your life, which you probably do, go get Bron's book and start to understand rather than be triggered by it. Right. All right, guys, have an amazing day, and remember to smash it out. Thank you, Bron.
Okay, thank you.